Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names. I'm Jillian Hochman.
And I'm Alan Seals.
And today we just had a wonderful conversation with Micaela Diamond, who is currently Babe in the Cher Show. And oh my gosh, again, like I feel like I'm saying this, repeating myself, saying this every time, but like every interview is my new favorite.
You know, but she's so great.
What did you think about it?
I am, right away off the bat meeting her, she does not feel like she's 19 years old.
She's 19.
She's 19 years old. She has this air, this professionalism to her that is so, like, you can't learn that. You can't go to school for that. You can't read about it in a book. It's something you have. It's part of her personality, and it is just infectious.
Yeah, she tells a story in the interview here of like that she got the call, they wanted to see her again, and it was kind of apparent that they wanted her, but it was just a test to see if she could take notes, to test the professionalism. Yeah. And of course, like, she nailed it. She got the part. And at 18, without any professional Broadway credits or really any professional theater credits to her name at that point, like, Cher Show is her first role, a breakout role for everything. And I hope, gosh, she is just so talented. I hope it continues.
I'm also fascinated by her hair and how she fits it in that wig, and she told us all the secrets, and I can't wait for you to hear them.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she did interview in pin curls because it is between shows on a 2-show day.
This is
today.
Real life, yo.
All right, everybody, please enjoy this episode here with Micaela Diamond.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
She made her Broadway debut in the smash hit The Cher Show alongside a laundry list of seasoned Broadway veterans, including Stephanie J. Block, Teal Wicks, and Jared Spector, not to mention befriending one of our time's leading divas, Cher herself. Now just 19 years old with a voice that I can personally listen to forever. She's currently playing Babe, the youngest of the 3 Chers in The Cher Show on Broadway. Micaela Diamond, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this on your 2-show day. You're
still in pin curls.
Pin curls and big eye makeup.
It's a good look. People at Poke always look at me a little strange.
Actually, one of the first questions that somebody else told me to ask you was, I think it might have been Jillian actually, was you have very large hair.
Oh my gosh.
Right now your pin curl, you had very tiny pin curls.
It's got to hide under all that black wig.
How long does it take?
I've gotten it down to a good 30-minute prep. Like whole face, whole hair, everything.
Really?
Yeah. I can do it in about 30 minutes.
That's
that doesn't
impressive.
really include my physical warm-up. I want more time than that, but yeah, I've gotten it down.
Well, that's impressive. But normally on this podcast, we go back to the childhood.
Amazing.
And you're kind of still in it. But let's go back even farther.
Okay.
So where did you grow up as a wee lass?
I grew up in Margate, New Jersey on the beach, so very different from New York City, but I loved it. I feel like I got the best of both worlds. I moved to the city when I was 11, and so I learned how to ride a bike and learned to swim and all of that stuff in the suburbs, and then came to New York and learned how to be an adult too fast. But I loved both places. I grew up with my mom in New York, and we moved here together for theater and all of that jazz. And I'm forever thankful for that because we clearly made the right decision, I think.
I hope, yeah.
She's proud.
Is it, you have any siblings? You're an only child?
Only child, which I think is a big reason why we were able to just pick up and move. I did a small kids theater production of Sound of Music, and I was Marta. And we rented an apartment in New York for the time being. We got home. I started 7th grade in Margate. And then a month in, we looked at each other and we were like, should we move? Should we just get up and go? And we did. A month later, we were living in New York. And she found a job about a year later. And we were on a budget of all budgets. But, you hustle.
Yeah. And was your dad in the picture at this time? Or?
My mom and dad got divorced when I was about 7, 8. And I see him probably like once a month. when I was growing up and in high school still, and now he comes and supports all my shows, and it's lovely. But my mom's my biggest supporter and my best friend, so I'm lucky to have her.
You seem, in what I can find with you online, it sounds like you are where you are much because of your mother.
Yeah, and she's not a theater person at all, which is
really
always surprising. Yeah, I mean, she loves it. She goes by herself to the theater all the time, takes herself on dates and whatever, but she knows nothing about it. I mean, could not act or sing or dance for her life. So it's kind of a perfect combination because she can't give me notes. Like she doesn't know anything about it. So it's great.
It's like the perfect stage mom.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like she supports you enough so that you can do it, and then of your own merit, you make it. Yeah, that's great.
I love coming home and she'll just be like, I think I need my fix. I'm gonna go to the Cher Show next week. Like she comes like probably once a month to give in her fix.
Do parents of cast members get in for free? Do you ever? How does that work? Because I know that like there are people that go hundreds and hundreds of times.
No, she usually pays. I mean, once in a while she'll...
You're saying like there's something wrong with that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think so either. I mean, she shouldn't get in for free, but once in a while she'll come to pick me up or something in between a 2-show day, and she'll sit in my dressing room and just listen through the monitor for all of Act 2. And the first time she did it, she was like, "Your beat goes on was fantastic. I couldn't see, but it was so great." I was like, "You were the cutest human being ever. Thank you."
But you got started performing in dance, yeah?
Yeah.
Like
that was like my first
dance.
love. Yeah.
What age was that?
Oh, I started dancing before I was like 2 in class. And my mom was a yoga teacher. So I've been like, she always says, "I stretched you as a baby. That's why you're so flexible," which is a lie, but she can pretend that that's what happened. And yeah, I loved dance. And then I kind of grew out all of my studios in Margate. And so she opened one herself and hired all of these incredible teachers who I'm still in touch with now. And I took an array of classes. And when I moved to the city, I was always, my dream all through high school was like to be a dancer on Broadway, like ensemble dancer, like that was the goal. And then it didn't really necessarily happen like that, but better. So it's cool. It's funny, like the way once you get something, how your dreams change and your goals change. It's really fascinating.
It's really interesting to me because, like I said in the intro, your voice is just phenomenal. It is incredible.
Thanks.
And everything I could find was just dance this and dance that and dance. But where did the singing come in? Where did you learn to sing like this?
I always, very similar to Cher. She said this in interviews, which is weird. But very similar to her, I was very small as a kid. Like I was like 4'11" for like years. Like I only had a growth spurt like sophomore year of high school.
That's all you know.
And 5'6".
Drop a phone. Okay.
Stupid. Yeah, I'm 5'6" now, but I was 4'11" for like years. And what were we talking about? It's her fault. It's all her fault.
Where singing came in.
Yes, thank you, Chelsea Nackman. So I loved how big I felt because my voice was always so big in my tiny little body. And Cher always says that too. She was like, "I just loved that singing made me feel big."
Yeah.
And like it takes up space. And I think this is getting deep, maybe too fast, but like I think as girls, it's so important to learn at a young age that taking up space is so much better than trying to take up less. And so I loved that about singing. And I started singing really young. I mean, that was definitely my second passion and love and whatever. And I loved like belting a song in a musical and like knowing that it landed. Like that's such a cool feeling. Like a lot of people are like, I love to make people laugh. I love to land a song, like that feels so good to me. And then but I will say like when I was auditioning for Cher, I went into those auditions and I almost didn't go because I couldn't really sing the material. And really? I was like, I don't want to embarrass myself. Like this is in front of a huge casting office. Like I genuinely wasn't sure if I could do it. And quick story, this is hilarious, but I went into my audition. The music our music supervisor, Daryl Waters, who's amazing. I was doing Song for the Lonely in my audition, and it was too high. And so they brought it down in my audition, a key, and it fit so much better in my voice. I was like, great. Left the audition, jump cut to first rehearsal of the Cher Lab. I had booked the role. First rehearsal is usually all vocals. And since there were so many for the three of us, it was like the cast met and then it was the three of us for the rest of the day, just doing our songs. And it was me, and then Stephanie J. Block was sitting right next to me. And we get to Song for the Lonely. And Stephanie starts that song, and she goes, I think that this song is a little low for me. Like, can we just lift it a key? And I look at Daryl across the room, and I'm like, no, wait, this can't happen. Like, no, it was too high for me in the audition. Like, we have to keep it at this key, whatever. I didn't say any of this, but like, I'm having a full panic attack in my head. Like, I'm about to be fired first day rehearsal. And then Andrew, she goes, is it going to be like the Star Spangled Banner where it gets higher in the end? I don't want to like F myself over. And Andrew, our music director, goes, no, it'll fall on Micaela. And I was like, what the heck is happening? I am literally going to be fired first day. And we get to my part, and I was like, I'm just not really sure that I can sing this. And then Andrew was like, well, why don't you just try? And I was like, well, I'm not going to like not try in front of Stephanie and like ruin it for everybody. So I tried, and little by little, I like kind of just learned a different part of my voice and through lessons and whatever. And now that is the version in the show, that higher version. But that was a journey of getting there. I mean, I'm 19, so your voice is still dramatically changing, and figuring out how to, sustain 8 times a week is fascinating. But it's been, it's good. I love singing. It's a good time. I just am sad that it becomes less of a, there's no singing in the shower. Let's put it that way. When you do 8 times a week,
yes,
there's no more like fun, let's learn a song at home, belt it out, and then go do your 8 times. That's not a thing. I was just talking to Erica Henningsen about that. We both like can't playfully sing anymore, which is the only sad part about it. But
you conserve your voice and rest it every chance you get. Yeah. I mean, the songs are not easy.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination.
No, and they're all higher than the original versions. Cher never sang that.
Did you do any sort of Cher impersonation before the show, or did you just go in there and you just sang a Cher song? And
in the audition, you mean?
Yeah.
I didn't really. I definitely kept it to who I was and my voice, especially speaking wise. But it was much easier for me to transition my singing voice into more her. So I gave them a little like that, like deep kind of throaty flair in the voice part in the songs, but. Speaking wise, I really didn't. I walked into that audition and was like, let me just give you what I am, and then hopefully you can mold me. And through work sessions, they were like, yeah, you can take notes. Great. And we kept going.
Well, what are the notes? Like how does someone say be more Cher-ish?
Well, what's great, it was less that, because when the process started, our director made it very clear to the three of us that we wanted to tell her story and not do an impression. That was the first round of this performance. Little by little, we learned in our out-of-town tryout that there's a huge expectation when people are coming to the Cher Show. And it has to be Cher. It has to be that impression. And so it changed over the last, year to be what it is today. Like even Stephanie was like, oh, so we're opening with Turn Back Time. So like I need to be Cher. Like there's no in between. There's no Stephanie telling Cher's story, which was what it was at the beginning. But we had an incredible, incredible voice coach who teaches at Juilliard, Kate, who really helped us with the like be more Cher thing. She totally would give us, first it was kind of coordinating the three of us to sound similar. And then it would be like, here's an ism she does, or like she will like accent her sentences in this certain way, or like her comedy is really dry in this moment. So you just have to do nothing and just say like all of these little things. And we started to find her. And I think Stephanie found her first. And then when I was able to listen to another human that wasn't Cher do Cher, I was able to kind of click into what those things you could do with your mouth are that make it really easy to just pop in whenever you want instead of pretending that you like can't really do it out of context. Like that was totally a thing in Chicago where I was like, I'm not sure if I can do it unless it's the line. And then you learn that what to do with your mouth that just makes it work.
That's amazing. I love seeing this in person, like not in costume. I'm just like,
the blonde curls and the Cher voice.
Going back to your audition, that was a week before you were set to go to Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah. It was insane. An insane week. I mean, funny, we were just talking about Birthright before we started recording, but I had my first audition, my callback, and then the day after my callback, I went to Israel. And throughout the entire Birthright trip, I was waiting for a call. And I would call my mom being like, nope, haven't gotten anything. And then I finally got a call like 3 days before I was supposed to come home. And it wasn't that I got it. It was that they wanted to see me again. And I was like, this is a joke. But obviously I'm going in and they were like, they want you to dress up and straighten your hair. I said, okay. And I went and got a blowout and had it thick straight in the middle part, kind of like Teal's wig, the lady wig. And I wore this red jumpsuit and showed up in heels. And I walked in and our director was like, look, we love you. You're 18 and we want to make sure you can take notes fast because it's a lab and it's going to, we got to get this thing on the road. And I said, okay. And as soon as he said that, I was like, I think I got it because I can take notes. Like I've been working my butt off for, 10 years to like take notes fast. So, and then we had a work session for like an hour where he threw different things at me for the sides and different, thoughts on Sonny and Cher's relationship and all those like love scenes. And I got the call 30 minutes later.
So you walked out the door and then it was like, that was it. You remember where you were when you got the call?
I had just gotten home. I mean, I walked out of that final callback and I took Bernie Telsey outside the room and I was like, look, I want this so bad. I also need a fast turnaround time because I'm leaving for Carnegie Mellon in 2 days. And I genuinely need to go pack my apartment if I'm leaving. Like I need to know. And he was like, we'll give you a fast turnaround time. Like whatever. I was expecting like the next day, but then I got the call. I had traveled home, got the call and was like, Mom, just freaking out. It was crazy. I mean, it was like my whole life turned upside down.
That's so Bernie.
Oh yeah. He's just a dad. Bernie. He's such a dad.
But was that a hard choice to decide not to go to college?
What's funny is senior year, I was like the most BFA human being ever at LaGuardia High School. And I like loved the audition process for schools. Like I auditioned for 13 of them. Like I really wanted to go to Carnegie. And so at first I think but the reason I wanted to go was because I wanted the end game to be Broadway. And I wanted to learn how to get there. And then I got there. So it wasn't, yes, there's like a part of me that's like, I just want to go to a school and learn so I can feel smarter. But I'm learning all of those musical theater things. I'm learning the exact same things that all of my best friends are learning at their schools, just under higher stakes, like in front of 1,400 people. And I totally mess up all the time. I make so many mistakes. But I have to learn them somewhere. So I'm going to learn them in front of people. And that's okay. I'm happy that I have the opportunity to do that. So it wasn't too hard of a decision. But it definitely was one. I mean, I definitely was like, oh, there's a chapter in my life that will kind of be missed. But then there's this really awesome chapter that I'm living instead. So,
Do you think you'll ever go back to like a 4-year university like that?
I definitely won't go back for musical theater. I actually just got an email the other day from Carnegie Mellon being like, would you like to defer for your last time? And I was like, yes. But I would love to go back for something else. I would love to go back.
What do you think you would go back for?
women's studies, certain times in history really interest me. Writing. I don't know. I'd love to figure out a way to make my mind work a little bit more as a director, maybe at some point. Because I'm not in school, I try and create a bit of my own curriculum. For a while, it was like the show is the show. And now that I'm a little more settled, I'm like, well, I need to read all the Tom Stoppard plays, and I'm holding like Shakespeare clubs with all my friends so we can like read all the plays and I know them. And like, but a huge part of me is like, maybe I'll, renegotiate one more time and then go run over to London and like study at the RADA, like whatever. I think there's like a lot of different paths I could take, but so much of me wants to learn as much as I can. Like I want to be, like just because I'm not going to school doesn't mean I'm definitely going to take classes,
Right. Yeah, I think my prediction is that because of who you are playing and the show you are playing it in, that you're probably going to start working on undisclosed projects as soon as you're out or before you even leave. And I think it will hop like that. So
I hope so.
You're 19. Do you realize, I guess, the enormity, is that a word?
Yeah.
Enormity of the position that you've obtained now? Like with very little formal musical theater training, you've landed one of the biggest roles on Broadway right now.
Yeah. Oh, put it like that.
And you're damn good at it.
Thank you.
So, like,
I will say I went to LaGuardia High School in the city, and I did a buttload of shows outside of that. And, I went for drama. So I did Meisner. I've done voice and speech classes. I've had on-camera classes. So once I got into the room, I was like, I have some of these tools. Let me start to just fill the toolbox with more of them, and I'll figure out which tools need to go in from my other peers, from my coworkers who are veterans. I mean, I'm by far the youngest one. It's not like Mean Girls where they're all like 20s, I'm in a show where like there's very few 20-year-olds. And so I guess I feel like I got really lucky with my cast that I'm able to learn so much from them. So yes, sometimes I like look at the house and I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm standing here. But I do feel like there was a certain amount of work that I did to get here. And I'm glad you think it's going okay. But there are totally I would say, and I talk to Jared about this all the time because I feel like I have a teenage life crisis every few weeks, but there's totally, I would say like 5 out of 8 shows a week I walk off and I'm like, I shouldn't do this anymore.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm not a good actor. And then there will be like 2 shows a week where I'm like, that I was fully living in these moments, and I love being spontaneous with Stephanie, and I'll just get fed kind of that that musical theater high, and the high balances out all the lows. But there's like definitely a show a week where I walk out and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can do this.
Do you deal with a lot of self-doubt like that in general, or is it just kind of a show like this?
No, I don't know. It's funny when you say self-doubt. I mean, that's exactly what I just described, but it's less, in my head at least, it's less self-doubt and more, I think I'm very realistic. Like I often ask myself, well, why would I do this if I can't be Meryl Streep? If I can't be the best at what I do, what's the point? Then I take a step back and I'm like, that's super stupid, right? There's a huge part of my brain that continuously asks that question.
That's
but
a
to
high
me,
bar
it's not,
to be Meryl, yeah,
absolutely
to be Meryl Streep, yeah.
But do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
In a certain sense, like if that's the goal, like what am I doing if I'll never be able to reach that? However, that's a horrible way of looking at things. Like all your viewers are going to be like, she's so horrible and negative and whatever. But there are also those shows that I'm like, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. I am good at this. Like, I have so much more to give. And I'll be like, that moment didn't hit. Can't wait to go back and do it again the next show.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people on this podcast, and some very successful ones, like some young ones and some not so young ones. And I have a theory that like the more successful you are, the more like anxiety and depression you have to deal with in a personal life. And I don't know if that's I'm generalizing very broadly here, but I feel like how do I want to put this? That to know who you are at that level allows you to be that more vulnerable and therefore that more successful on stage.
Yeah. Yes. I have a few thoughts. I think that if you navigate it well, like I don't I don't have that much anxiety as a human being, but there are definitely moments in time when I'm doing double duty, which is like I'm doing 8 times a week and also doing another reading or lab at the same time. Those are moments when I'm like, I feel like I'm shutting down mentally because I'm like trying to put my focus on so many places at once. But I also, I think I have a great amount of, I just know who I am and I know what will get me through the week. I have 2 Pilates classes a week that I like have to go to for like my mental meditation place that like will reset my week. And like those moments when I'm like, this is not right for me. It's more like, no, like you just have to work really hard to get there.
Yeah.
But I have like that's just an example, but I have those certain moments and these certain people that I put myself around that will continuously remind me of those things as well as myself. So I don't think you have to be, and I don't think this is what you're saying, but I don't think you necessarily have to be depressed to be like present or like emotionally available on stage.
No, I was not saying that.
Totally.
At all, yeah.
But I think there is like, even Stephanie J. Block struggles with like, should I do this? And she's like super successful. I think it's just more physically demanding than I thought it would be. Not necessarily voice-wise, but just like body-wise, there's a level of commitment that you have to give to the show. And like, do you have anything left at the end of the night? Maybe not. Some weeks, you know? And that's like, I often ask the question, like, do I want to not have anything left at the end of the night for the rest of my life? Maybe not. Maybe I want more other skills. Maybe I want to try TV film. Maybe it would be worth it if I was getting paid $60,000 an episode. Do you know what I mean? So there are all of these questions are things I think about a lot. But to like travel back a little bit, I also like every single night, if you haven't seen the show, I have this moment in Act 2 where Stephanie kind of passes the torch back to me and I do this incredible dance number, beat goes on, and get to literally step into the spotlight and sing this song about her movie career and her winning the Oscar and her having all of these ups and downs and not getting parts for 2 years and then winning the Oscar and whatever. And every night I get to like live that dream, like, which is mine. So which was such a gift from our writer. I mean, we had no idea what to put in that spot for so long, that like Act 2 picked me up. And then he finally put that on the table 3 days before Chicago. And we were like, this is it. This is it. This is the number. But I'm so thankful for that number because it's such a reality check. It's like, yeah, you might be tired, but you are literally living your dream right now in a spotlight.
That's crazy. I've seen the show and I love it. I love that number. It's it stands out as one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, it's fun to like tell a story and I feel the entire audience be on the same page as me. Yeah.
So your career basically has just like skyrocketed in the last 2018. When did you start in Chicago?
Yeah,
that was summer,
like
last
June.
summer, right?
Yeah, it was June of 2018.
Yeah, summer 2018. And so like now all of a sudden, you know, all over all the Broadway interwebs and everything and doing podcasts and everything.
Yeah.
Is this what you imagined, not even being, I was going to say early 20s, you're not even there yet. Is this what you imagined being a 19, 20-year-old was going to be? And do you really, do you think that you're going to like wake up at 25 and be like, oh, I missed out on the ability to go out and be a stupid teenager. Because
No, totally not. I mean, people ask me that a lot. Like,
Really?
yeah, do you like wish you could like make mistakes and go to college and drink and whatever? But I grew up in New York City, first of all. So like, I do feel like LaGuardia was almost like a fake out college in a way. I've always been very independent. Like I never had a curfew. Like all of that stuff was not really a thing. So I don't feel like I've missed out on that. I really don't. Because I will have conversations with Jared or Rick, our writer, and go out to drinks with them after a show and like have these super intellectual conversations that like make me think for weeks on end.
Drinking water, of course.
Mm-hmm,
Yes,
totally. And those conversations are like all I've ever wanted is to like talk to a writer about like going to a party with Laurence Olivier. Do you know what I mean? Like those are the conversations I want to have. And like, not that my friends at college aren't having cool conversations, but like, that's always been me. I've always like wanted that. I've always been friends with older people. I love being able to be in a cast with just like a whole bunch of vets who have so much life experience and so much wisdom to give me. I feel so lucky with that. It's definitely not what I expected, though. Totally not.
What do you think you expected?
Well, I expected to like go to CCM and like dance my butt off and go to parties and all of that stuff. And then hopefully like, oh God, I remember like writing down on my vision board like I was going to work in Disney World, and then I could get my equity card, and then I would come back to the city and be able to go to the equity calls, and then I would like book a small ensemble role and like maybe understudy the lead. Like I had this all planned out. So it's like every day I'm like, I can't. It's stupid how lucky I am that I got to skip that in a way. Like I don't. It's insane. But in the same light, I was like thrust into 8 times a week when like I've never done that before, which was like, okay, we're learning things,
Oh yeah. So you were 18, so there were no child labor laws in effect.
Nope.
Because you're not a child anymore.
Nope,
yeah,
not
8
a child.
Shows straight
8
up.
shows straight.
That's crazy.
yeah,
that
which is
takes
super
some
hard.
conditioning.
Yeah. And I didn't get any.
Right.
I just kind of hopped in. But, Stephanie got me through it. Stephanie,
Did she?
Yeah, she understands. Like, she's such a goddess in that way. Like, she's like, if you need to take a show, you take a show. Like, if you, like, you take care of yourself. I always say, like, I have the self-care of a person who just had a heart attack. Like, I feel like we have to take care of ourselves, and what we eat and how we sleep and all of those things are so, so important.
That's ridiculous.
I never expected to have to think about, like, wellness formula at 19 and like my swollen ankles that I have to like ice every night and my, like all of those weird things that should not be happening to a 19-year-old are totally happening to me.
Well, dancing in and of itself is incredibly intense. And like if you're doing ballet, if like, what is it? They say if you haven't made it, I put in air quotes, right? By 25, then like you just, you're past your ability, your physical ability to do it.
It's crazy. And the heels.
Your
heels are
intense.
crazy.
I mean, the Bob Mackie
I mean, just the amount of back pain I have from those heels. But, I do it for Bob.
Yes. What was it like working with him? And I guess we'll start with that.
I
working
love
with
Bob and Joe. I do put it, I know everybody always is like, what's it like working with Bob? But behind the scenes, Bob was always there, and then his assistant Joe was always there, and both of them are like the most divine human beings. I loved working with them, and they always made me feel really comfortable, especially like it's kind of a weird show to start out in because you are very naked in some of the costumes, and like I'm just learning about like I'm just coming into my skin, so it's like I really have to, be in a comfortable place when like no one looks at you in the eye when you're in a fitting. You know what I mean? Like they're pinning and they're cutting and they're doing all of the things. And like you have to remain confident enough to like stand there naked while they like do their thing. And they were so lovely when it came to that. They were so respectful and joyous, and I loved them. And Mackie just made me always feel so comfortable in talking about Cher, and he had so many stories, and we've become really good friends. Actually,
That's
I love
nice.
him. Yeah.
And what went through your head when you first met Cher?
So she came to our lab presentation when I still hadn't gotten the contract for, Chicago or Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to our second presentation, so our last thing, and I had straightened my hair and was wearing bell bottoms and whatever, and Stephanie was hiding away in the upstairs room, and I went down to say hi. We were kind of summoned, and she had a whole posse crew of people with her, and she chatted with us for a little bit, shook our hands, and then kind of put us into a circle, the whole cast, and was like, look, with her big sunglasses and hat, and you couldn't really see her face. And she was like, look, we're all here because we love what we do. So don't fuck it up.
Is that what she said?
Yeah,
Literally? Wow.
yeah, that's what she said. And we were all like, great, super not nervous, phenomenal.
No
But
pressure.
it was a little weird. I almost think I was so nervous that I almost like balanced out myself. Like all of a sudden I was really calm. I also like felt really strong about the work we had done. And so right before we started, I felt really grounded. And we did it. And I told myself, like, just stay in your own zone and your own show, especially until your section is over. I say that lightly because we're in the whole show, but like the bulk of my section is the first 45 minutes. And then I started to look at her and I couldn't help it. I wanted to see what she thought. But it was cool. She's the most intimidating person, and we call her the planet because she has such a gravitational pull. But she's also just the coolest human being, and you want to sit next to her and ask her all the questions.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple times earlier in the chat here that you thought about you possibly do women's studies, and that you had a great when you talk about singing about women should fill up the space.
Yeah.
But I was reading too that you also identify as being queer. Yes.
Yes.
So
I'm bi.
bi. Okay. So do you feel obligated to represent the queer community, even like in the position you're in now at such a young age, or do you like the political, the activism? Like, do you want to save that for later?
No.
Are you called to that?
No, I would not like to save it for later. I would love, yeah. I think not many people get the chance to have a platform at such a young age. And I would love to use it. I mean, I hope I am. Currently, I get so many messages from people being like, I've never met somebody who's bi and on Broadway and a lead and playing Cher, and that's so cool. And like, thank you for being open about it. And I think like my generation is kind of a lot more open and active about it, especially just because we're living in such a shit time. So it's like easy for us to acknowledge how shitty it is.
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody, like, not everybody, that's such a generalization, but like before it was like, we try and hide all the issues, whereas our people are like, let's lay them all out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to be myself. I guess I don't feel like an obligation to do anything besides that, and be open about that. But yeah, I think Cher has also helped in that. Like, I wouldn't have necessarily said 2 years ago, like, I'm queer, but she's like the most unapologetic human being. And I was like, why would I not be that if I'm playing that role? Like, that's totally like a positive thing I can take from her. And so like whenever somebody asked me, it was like, of course, yeah, like that's exactly who I am. And I'm like totally not afraid to say that anymore, which is so great. Like that was never like a thing that it could be so accepted. And like my mom is just the coolest. I was like in a car ride with her on like a road trip, and I was like having a very casual conversation about my generation and like how we've been identifying and how like gender is kind of becoming like obliterating and whatever. And I was like, I think I think if I had to be closest to anything, it would be bi. And I just remember, and I didn't even say it like I was coming out or anything. And she was like, yeah, I think if I was in your generation, I would be too. And I was like, yes, Mom, that's correct. If there was any right answer in that situation, that was it.
Mom seems really cool.
Yeah, she's the coolest.
Wow.
With her thick Boston accent.
Yeah, I think I can't do Boston accent.
It's hard.
Yeah, park the car.
Yep, that's my go-to too.
Yeah. So we are running short on time here. You've got to get back to PT, I hear.
Important.
Yes, but to wrap up the podcast here, we always have 3 questions that I ask everybody to close this out. First one, very simply, what motivates you?
Oh my goodness, that's such a great question to ask everybody. I would say my mom. And I would also say, this sounds really weird, but I'll explain in a second. Like, the humans around me are so incredibly impactful in what I do. And so, like, my writer, Rick, completely motivates me to do a great show every night. Jared on stage will lock eyes and all of a sudden I'll do a great show. And I think like Shakespeare, like writers motivate me to like want to learn more, reading, all of that stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
I would say try and be exactly who you want to be in the world and stop apologizing for that. I will never apologize for a show, no matter how poorly I think I did. It's just not worth it. And to continue to acknowledge my self-worth, especially as a teenager. It's a hard thing to do.
Okay. And last question. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what show would you see?
Shit. Oh my gosh. It doesn't have to be on Broadway right now, right?
Anything.
Oh God, this is so hard, you guys. Oh my God, there's so many choices. Sorry. I'll be late for PT. This is very important to me. What? Is there like an obvious answer that I'm missing? What?
What was the first thing that came to mind?
Well, the first thing was weirdly If I Forget, which is weird. It was this play that I was like obsessed with for a year.
There you go.
So I'll say that. That was like my first instinct. But it's a little sad to see every day.
Well, that's why the question's not easy.
Yeah, it's not.
All right. Well,
you can signing off. I'm going to think about it more.
Well, you can just email or send a message and we'll add.
Great.
You can just record yourself and we'll dub it into this episode.
Great.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So we can get more of you on Instagram at Micaela_Diamond and on Twitter at Micaela Diamond _.
Wasn't available the other way.
I know. You should just kick out that other Micaela Diamond. Get more of me at theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter, facebook.com/officialtheaterpodcast. Listen and subscribe via thetheaterpodcast.com. Rate, review, like, share, all that fun stuff. You can email me, feedback at thetheaterpodcast.com. This is produced by Jillian Hockman, and thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the lovely intro and outro music you're hearing right now. Micaela, thank you. This has been so wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.